What's up? I'm Alan, 5 Angels. I'm Big Swole. Bam! And you're watching Cult Elite, baby. Woo! You're watching Cult of Elite.
The Inner Circle never effing forgets!
And I am the Exalted One.
You couldn't last a day in my shoes!
D&D.
I need my older brother. August 20th, 2021. I'm back. You're the next great wrestling tragedy.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Elite Lounge. I'm your host, Aiden, and welcome back to the show. If you are listening on a podcast platform, just a quick reminder that we do record on YouTube live. You can come ask questions, submit your statements, we can talk about the show, and you can do much more. Head over to solo.to/cult of elite and click that first link. It will take you to our YouTube channel. You can also rewatch live episodes, see the chat room, and so much more. Also, I'm opening up a live call, so if you're in our Discord and you are got that COU role, then you can join the live call-in, and I will drag you in when we are ready. And you can also submit no mic questions, so I will review and talk over your question if you do not have a mic or cannot speak at this moment in time. We are here today gathered in the church or lounge, whatever you want to call it, for AEW Dynamite for 9/8/21 live from Cincinnati, Ohio, in the Fifth Third Arena, John Moxley's home. And we had a big night of action. This is the fallout from All Out, or Sean Rossap calls it AEW Fallout. You know, we move with it, all right? We had Dustin Rhodes versus Malakai Black. We got to hear from CM Punk, Bryan Danielson, The Elite, and Adam Cole. We had Matt Hardy, and for Orange Cassidy stuff, we had MJF and Brian Pillman Jr., Jamie Hayter, Ruby Soho. So much stuff going on this Dynamite, so much packed into this 2 hours. And then your main event, of course, which was Minoru Suzuki versus Jon Moxley. I remind you, if you are watching live on YouTube right now, to go ahead and hit that like button on the video, as well as subscribe to the channel. We kick off on Dynamite with Malakai Black taking on Dustin Rhodes. These two go at it, but there's a big height difference. I believe Malakai's like 5'11", and Dustin's like 6'4". So, I mean, there's a big, there's a lot of botches going on because Malakai can't really reach. He goes to hit the Sin Eater or Black Mass or Roundhouse Kick, whatever JR decides to call it. And it hits him right on the shoulder, and Dustin still sells it, and Malakai still picks up the win. He's really being pushed. It has been confirmed on this card that Malakai will take on Cody Rhodes in a rematch at Grand Slam, I believe 2 weeks from this week. I could be wrong. But yeah, just a lot of, I think they have good chemistry. I just don't think that the height difference helped a lot with him trying to kick. But that whole story is going on. Malakai's doing amazing things right now. CM Punk comes out. He grabs the mic and he says, "We're going to get right to it. I want to thank Darby Allin. I want to thank Sting. And I want to thank all of you. I didn't know if I had what it takes, but I'm here to tell you it's like riding a violent bicycle, and I'm going to get back on that bicycle." Who saw the pay-per-view? Ruby Soho, Adam Cole, Bryan Danielson. The first person I texted as soon as I was out of the ring in Chicago was my beautiful wife April. She asked what was next. Cincinnati, what's next for CM Punk? There's a lot of people to choose from. Before Taz grabs a microphone and interrupts CM Punk and says, "I'm tired of your BS. Love fest. Don't you ever mention any member of Team Taz that you want to face. Don't you ever do that." Punk says that no one ever mentioned Team Taz, and Taz says, "Yes, you did on the radio, in interviews. I'm telling you, Punk, don't do it," said Taz as soon as Hobbs and Hook joined Team Taz and stood by his side. As Punk made his way to the ramp from the ring, he and Powerhouse Hobbs had to stare down until Hobbs finally walked to the ring for his match. So it looks like Punk is going into a feud with Team Taz. That will be interesting. I'm all for Punk versus Ricky Starks at some point in time. That match would be amazing. Following that, we had Ruby Soho backstage. Soho says, "I actually helped break Brittany in, Tony. This is my block now. Why don't you go run away to catering where you spent the last 4 years of your life," said Britt Baker. Before we cut to the ring with Powerhouse Hobbs with Hook taking on Dante Martin of Top Flight. Hobbs slammed into Dante with a running shoulder tackle. Hobbs rolled down to his knees and dropped a knee on Dante's sternum. Hook jumped up on the apron, a jaw jack with Dante, but Dante jumped right over Hook and smacked right down onto Hobbs. Dante springboarded into a pump kick at Hobbs, but Hobbs answered with a nasty spine buster to get the win. Very short match, 2 up-and-comers going at it. I'm all for it. Definitely probably the sleeper match of this entire show. Following that, we had American Top Teams. Dan Lambert was in a skybox with Scorpio Sky and Ethan Page. Basically, it was just putting over Ethan Page and Scorpio Sky. I'm really interested to see where this goes with Lance Archer. I think Archer's about to jump into something with Suzuki versus Mox and Eddie, maybe. I'm not really sure what's going on there. But I'm curious to see what they do next with Scorpio Sky and Ethan Page because they're a great tag team. We then get a backstage promo where Matt Hardy threatens to cut Orange Cassidy's hair, and Orange Cassidy replied with, "Whatever." I'm not at all interested in a hair versus hair match between Matt Hardy and Orange Cassidy. MJF walked out. He's cutting a promo talking trash to Brian Pillman Jr.'s family before Pillman comes out and he says, "Welcome to the jungle," gets into the ring, gets beat up. Griff Garrison comes down, gets hit in the head with the ring, falls down. MJF versus Brian Pillman Jr. will be taking place at Grand Slam, I believe they said it's going to be taking place. I could be wrong. But then they shoot back to a backstage promo where Max Caster and the Acclaimed walk in, make their Dynamite return, and then it's made official for Max Caster versus Brian Pillman Jr. on Rampage this week. Up next, we had the AEW Dynamite debut of Ruby Soho, who took on Jamie Hayter. This match was kind of all over the place, but these two are so good that even when they were botching, they made it look good. There was a point where Hayter had Ruby up on her shoulders and was going to slam her face first, and Ruby ended up falling backwards into almost a Poison Rana, but instead of a Poison Rana, fell face first. Both women sold it as if it was meant to happen, and even another time when Hayter had her up on her shoulders for like an attitude adjustment and flipped her over on her knee, Ruby kind of turned sideways by accident and landed on the side of her head on the knee, and she still took it, but in the end, Ruby Soho picked up the win. After the match, Britt Baker and Rebel get involved, and it's 3-on-1. Riho comes down. She tries to help out, but numbers game gets to her. And then Chris Statlander comes down, and then it was made official for Rampage this week. Riho, Chris Statlander, and Ruby Soho versus Britt Baker, Rebel, and Jamie Hayter. We then had a trios match between the Pinnacles, FTR, Cash Wheeler, Dax Hardwood, and Shawn Spears, with Blanchard and Wardlow at ringside versus Dark Order's Evil Uno, John Silver, and Stu Grayson with Cabana and Angels at ringside. Dax hit a Dax hit a slingshot suplex on Grayson after Grayson and Uso accidentally collided heads. Spears finishes off Silver with the Death Valley Driver for the pin, the 1-2-3, and the Pinnacle pick up the win. Evil Uno got in John Silver's face after the match, and then Uno shoved Silver before the Dark Order members began to fight amongst one another. It was chaos. Anna Jay and Ty Conti walked out onto the stage and looked of disapproving at the Dark Order, who were seemingly self-destructing in front of them. We then go backstage to Tully Blanchard, who said he wants Spears to face Darby Allin next week, which was confirmed. It will happen. And he also said before long, Tully would like to go one-on-one with Sting. And man, if there's anything I would not want to see in AEW, it is this. Tully Blanchard versus Sting in a match in 2021 on Dynamite. I do not want to see it. Mr. Khan, if you are hearing this, please do not book this match. Following that, we had Tony Schiavone interviewing the AEW World Champion Kenny Omega, Matt and Nick Jackson, Adam Cole, who's making his Dynamite debut, the Good Brothers, Brandon Cutler, Michael Nakazawa, and of course, Don Callis. Adam Cole gets on the mic and he says, who's ready for... backing up. Oh, no, this is right here, okay. Adam Cole gets on the mic, he says, who's ready for story time with Adam Cole, baby? But first of all, gets into the face of Tony Schiavone. He said, now I know you're really close with Britt Baker. And I swear to God, if you even look at her the wrong way, I will slap those glasses off your face. Get out of the ring, you nerd. He goes on to say AEW is the greatest wrestling promotion in the world, and it's all because of the Elite in the ring right now. I mean, it is kind of true. Their name is the Elite. The company is kind of named All Elite Wrestling. You know what? I'm not going to get to that. Kenny Omega gets on the mic, and he said, one thing I hate is interruptions, and at the pay-per-view, we were interrupted before Bryan Danielson's music hits. Danielson walks out to the ring. Omega says, guys, could I please have the room for a second? We need to talk to our new guest. Hey, Bryan, step into the squared circle. Danielson grabs the mic and says, quick question. Do you guys want to see Bryan Danielson fight Kenny Omega? But he's telling me it doesn't work that way here. You're the greatest wrestler that ever lived. I think you're afraid to take this match because you know I'm better than you and that I will kick your head in. You're not on my level. Before Omega charges at Danielson going for a clothesline, Danielson reverses it and puts the yes lock, or whatever he's going to call it in, the yes lock locked in. Omega was tapping, the Elite jump in and storm a mud hole into Danielson, but then Christian Cage, the Jurassic Express, and the Elite Hunter Frankie Kazarian ran out to even up the odds. Danielson waffled Brandon Cutler with a running knee while the Elite backed off. It was then announced that next week Adam Cole will make his AEW Dynamite in-ring debut. He'll be taking on the Elite Hunter Frankie Kazarian. We then had our main event, which was Jon Moxley versus Minoru Suzuki. Moxley and Suzuki exchanged headbutts. They slugged it off on their knees. Suzuki blocked a lariat attempt from Moxley and tried to counter with a gotch-style piledriver. Moxley backdropped his way out of it and then dropped Suzuki with a paradigm shift. Suzuki was busted wide open. Suzuki then met Moxley with a drop kick and applied a sleeper, but Moxley escaped and rocked Suzuki with 2 punches. Mox nailed Suzuki with another paradigm shift and got the 1, 2, 3. And then we got 3 minutes of Moxley celebrating in the crowd with his hometown friendos. Well, there you go. There is AEW Dynamite. A very decent show. I mean, a very great way to start a new, fresh pace in AEW with All Out just happening. All the rivalries are kind of finishing up. Of course, now we're right out of Christian Omega right into a Danielson Omega, and so many other feuds start, and this wasn't going to be the most story-oriented show, but the Dark Order stuff happened. A lot of new stories started. Again, if you have not already, make sure you follow us on social media at Cult of Elite. Go solo.to/Cult of Elite to get all the social medias and join the cult.